Do you worry that when you come to die, you're going to feel like you wasted your life? Or maybe you're just not living your best life right now. Or maybe you could be doing better. Or maybe people tell you have a whole bunch of potential and you think they might actually be right. Well, you're in luck because today's episode,
And you're just
we're
wasting it.
yeah, we're going to be talking about how not to waste your life. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Randy?
Yo, Danny, do you ever, right now,
Right now.
when you think about yourself as an old person on your deathbed, okay? Because we all have these great reflective moments on our deathbed before we pass. We're surrounded by family and loved ones, and they're holding our hands and,
Yeah.
you know, to grace us in the transition into the afterlife. Do you think at that moment that you're going to feel like you wasted your life in
Paint a
any
picture.
capacity?
I mean, I hope not. As
Yeah.
of right now, I don't think I will. I hope I won't. And that's the
Hmm.
hard thing, though, right? It's like, because you never, I think this is the thing that most of us, or at least I get hung up on too, is like you also never know for sure. Like, you don't know what you're going to regret, right? So it's like, and I think that's the hard thing of like, we've said many times, like, you can do anything, but you can't do everything, right? That's the whole thing about choosing. And it's like, so. The trick is to make the choices that are good for you or right for you for the things that you would otherwise regret so you don't miss out on them. But you have to make those choices. And it's not always clear what those choices are, you know? I think
Yeah.
that's the difficulty.
It is a tricky one. I like the way that you put it there. I was actually talking with a friend kind of on the similar thing the other day about how, like, one of the things, because I worry all the time that I'm gonna regret that I wasted my life, or you
I
know,
wasted my life.
yeah. And like I was talking with him, and like I was talking about how like I feel there's a possibility I could get to the end of my life and regret that I didn't get married, that I didn't have kids. And he's he's been married and divorced and he has kids. And he's like, the only reason you feel that way is because you haven't been married and you don't have kids. and
Yeah,
and like it was funny, but he also had a point because like I went to school to be a veterinarian
I
because I
haven't been
thought that's
married. I
what I
don't have
wanted.
kids.
Yeah. But like I
About
went to
those things.
veterinary school and it took going there and working in that profession to realize that that's not what I wanted. So like, but had I have never gone, I might have regretted that I didn't go.
That's the thing, right? Is like you have to do those things to know with a certainty because we never know. We don't know until we do it, right? And so like you have to try them to see that it's not right for you to then move on
Right.
and
So the
not.
question
But if
is,
you
do I
don't
need to
do
get
it,
married and have a kid right now so I can know that's not for me?
then you can just forget about them and leave them. Oh God, this is a mistake. Get out of here.
Mhm.
No, yeah, it's tough, right? I mean, that's the hard thing because I think like the the difficulty or the trick of it is we have to know ourselves, and most of us don't know ourselves. We're so worried about other people. We're so worried about, keeping up with the Joneses or looking good or whatever that we forget like that we have our own values, our own things that matter to us, and that's what we're going to regret the most. And I think, for most of us, like for most, we always, you read all the time, like most people when they die and they don't regret that they didn't work more or, this and that. They regret like usually things like seeing people, friends and family, spending time with loved ones, stuff like that, or experiences. Usually that's the things we regret. It's not like I regret I didn't get the iPhone 14 when it came out. That's not going to be a regret because another phone's going to come out, I can
Because
always
by
get
the
another
time
one
you die,
later,
it'll be
but
the iPhone 300 and whatever.
700.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, we're not gonna regret stuff, but we're probably gonna regret like, I wish I did go to like that place that I always thought about going to and never went to, or like, hanging out with those people. And this is hard because you got to do that stuff when you can, you know? And I think this is the other part. We wait too long. Like we just put stuff off because it's so much easier to put stuff off than to do it. And then, you get to the point where you're older and like you might not have time, you might not have the health to do the things you want to do. And that's really where it gets hard, I think. And the regret comes in.
That's a good point. Like I never realized until I read that book Die with Zero that pretty much your prime years are like 30 to 50. Like that's it. You have the most amount of money, the most amount of time and the most amount of health between those years. Before then, you're lacking money. After then, you're lacking time or health. And it's just like
Yeah.
it's challenging to try and fit it all in during that time period.
It really is, though. It is hard. And I think, we put so much pressure on ourselves too. On the other hand, too, it's kind of funny because like there's a part of me that also knows like that, like, you know, in a certain sense, this is what it is. So like there's nothing to regret, it's just life. Like there's no and I can't know that doing that thing would have been good anyway. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to know that either with
Hmm.
certainty. So it's like in a certain sense there shouldn't be any regret, but on the other side of it, like we're people and we have these dreams and stuff, so we will regret things.
True. True. And there's
Yeah.
also like I don't it's not reductio ad absurdum, but it's kind of like if you don't regret stuff now or don't feel like you waste your life now, then you probably won't later on. And so yeah.
Yeah. If you're doing the things that if you have these ideas or these things that you want to do and you're doing them now, I think then you're probably not going to regret anything later.
Hmm.
I mean, at most, we might have, I'm sure a lot of people, even when they live a good life and have very little regrets, they still might regret like, the time that they're dying or something and not having a little bit more time or something. That's always possible, but that's something you have no control over. We're
Hmm.
talking about like stuff you would theoretically have control over. And I think, yeah, I think those cases you probably wouldn't regret much because you're doing things.
Hmm.
It's funny. I remember my grandparents. I remember because on my mom's side, I always felt back because like my grandfather like always felt like my grandmother like definitely like kept him from doing things and like he regretted it and I could tell him
Hmm.
like that that was sad. That was a lesson learned essentially.
Oh,
To see that.
definitely. Definitely. Did you ever have a time period in your life where you felt like you were maybe wasting your life or you weren't really living up to your
Yeah.
potential?
I hate the expectations and potential I hate because I
I know
think
when I
that
was
like
young, when I was young, so many people were like, "You have
I
such
know.
potential."
The fuck does that mean? And why do I have to live up to
Yeah,
it?
right.
No, yeah, I know. I never liked the expectations like placed on people because of the potential. I think it causes so much stress. It really does, because it caused me a lot of stress, right? Like all these people were saying stuff. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? So I think there is that. Like I felt that way when I was younger, plenty of times where I felt like I was like not living up to these expectations that people had for me, and that made me somehow a failure. Yeah.
Dude, talk about living up to those expectations. I have been thinking about that a lot recently. So, like, I have this constant narrative going on in my brain that if I don't do it's like everything. It's pervasive pretty much in everything. If I don't do it fast enough, there's not going to be enough left for me, and I'm not going to get what I need. And this whole thing. So, like, I'm constantly rushing everywhere that I go, everything that I'm doing, constantly rushing to get to some spot so eventually I can relax and like take my foot off the pedal. And it's kind of it's like that story about the successful businessman who goes down to Mexico and finds some dude loafing on the beach playing guitar. And he's like,
Yeah.
and I guess he's fishing and playing guitar, and he's like, if you took your time and got some boats and had a whole bunch of people working for you, you could make a lot of money fishing here. And he's like, well, what would I do then? He's like, well, then you could buy some more boats, have a bigger company. Eventually, in 30 years, you could retire rich. And what would I do then? Well, you could come down to a beach like this and play guitar and
Fish.
fish. Yeah. And it's like, but like I feel like I'm caught in this trap where I'm constantly trying to do instead of actually being present and enjoying life right now, I'm constantly trying to do this stuff to get me to that point so that I can enjoy life
And
and
that's
be
the sad
present now.
reality of like everybody. That's like everybody in the United States, right? Like everybody's rushing to get things done now, to get to that magical place where they have the time to do all the things they want to do and relax. And I think it's that stupid idea of scarcity that we were taught that, you have to be number one because there's not enough for everybody, and that's the only way to get as much as you can out of whatever that pot is.
Mm-hmm.
And like I think it screws us up because we don't ever like just enjoy what we're doing. Like Americans are terrible at relaxing, taking a day off. I mean, I see that in
Oh,
myself a lot where like I'll take a day off because like I need a day off and then like I start working. It's like to get something done and to feel productive, to feel like I that day was like it's almost like to make myself feel like that day was worthwhile or valuable. Like you have to get something done. And it's terrible. Like I think we'd be better off if we took more time to just enjoy the time that we have. Because this is
oh,
really all we have. Like that's the funny thing I think we forget all the time is like we act like we have all this time in the future and we trick ourselves into thinking we have all this magical time where we'll be able to do all these things. It's like, and we think of ourselves as physical now, then, but that's not going to be true. You're going to be way older. You're going to have maybe lots of problems. You might not even be alive then because things can happen. And like, so it's really dangerous, I think, to think that way because we just don't enjoy our lives and we don't take time to like enjoy the present and be present.
Yeah, goodness. Jeez. Life is such a conundrum, man.
I know it sucks, doesn't it?
It's like the craziest freaking thing. All the time is just paradoxes left and right. Nobody knows what
Yeah.
the heck's going on.
Well, you know, it's funny. It's like I can tell you like several instances over the past. I mean, I could say a couple weeks when I was like really busy, where like you know, Anna was talking to me, and like I caught myself just totally not paying attention because I was so distracted by other stuff, and I was like, "This is idiot. Like none of this stuff matters. I can wait on all of this. Can wait for an hour or whatever, so I can be present now." You know, and it's like, but if I don't catch myself, I won't do that, and then I miss out on something that's probably more important, which is right now. You know, instead of like
Yeah.
that's some future. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's so
very hard.
tricky. Yeah. But I do, I also
It
I
is.
also get caught in the worry loop of just like I worry that I'm trying to do my best to not regret. Like I try and like
Yeah.
when there are things that I want to do, like I joke with people, but it's not really a joke. It's like they're when they say like what's on your bucket list, pretty much pizza. That's it.
Yeah.
Because everything else that I've wanted to do, I'm pretty much either have done it or in the process of doing it, except for like eating a ton of pizza because
Or can do it. Yeah. Yeah.
I
Like you
try
will
and
do it.
maintain a somewhat healthy physique. But yeah, that's like
I do like pizza though. Pizza is good.
yeah, but I still constantly just worry that I'm going to get to the end of my life and just be like, you blew it, you idiot.
But you can't though. I mean, in certain
Yeah.
things you can't blow it. You're doing it. You are
Mhm.
living it. I mean, you are
Yeah.
doing it. So whatever it is, you're doing it however you think it is to be done right now. It
Yeah.
is
And
hard
it's the
though.
only way that it could be
It is.
done. I
Yeah.
kind of,
I mean, that's the other
it's
weird
kind of
thing,
a
right?
pain in the butt that we think that we have any type of control. Like if it was a completely
Like freedom.
deterministic
Yeah.
universe and
Yeah.
we would just be like, well, that's just the way it is. So,
But we might not have any. You know, that's the other funny thing is we might not have any freedom. And the chances are we probably don't. Like to be realistic, like, you know, we probably misinterpret free choice or what is we think is a free choice, which is really just a bunch of stuff happening in the background of biological synapses, chemicals and whatnot, and
yeah.
circumstance and situation that dictate what we're gonna do, you know?
They did have I forget what it is, but I've read it in a couple books where like the people who have the right and the left side of their brains separated, where uh they they'll just start doing stuff and then they make up a reason for it. So like we probably do just
Yeah,
we just do
ad
whatever
hoc
and
reasoning,
then
right?
we make up a reasoning for it all after the
Oh,
fact.
dude, I remember doing that. I remember doing that like in you know, in college. Like I decide I wasn't going to go to an exam first and then come up with a reason, you know, after the fact. Like I don't feel good or something, you know.
Yeah.
It's because I was sick or something. You know, you justify it later. We're good at justifying things.
Hmm.
That's the other problem, you know. It is hard though, dude. And it's hard because like I think all of us know too, like we can do almost anything if we put our minds to it and put the time. But then you get to this conundrum of like, well, how important really is it? And how much am I willing to sacrifice? Because every choice comes with that sacrifice too, of like, I can't do these other things. You know, so if it's like, you know, we went through this not long ago, like, right, learning programming, like that first year, I probably didn't go out much at all. Like, I didn't do a lot of things I would have otherwise done because I was trying to learn as quickly as possible and stuff, and it takes a lot of time. And like you have to
Hmm.
make those decisions, and it's hard. It is really hard to kind of decide what is really the most important thing right now is very difficult, I think, to figure out.
Hmm. Yeah. But I like the way that you said it. It matters more about right now as opposed to like at the end of your life.
Yeah,
I think you can just look at your life right now, and if you feel like you would regret dying right now, if you were to die right now, if you would regret things right
yeah,
now, then you probably would regret them later on. But if right now
yeah.
you'd be cool, then it's all cool.
As long as you keep going in that direction, you're probably fine,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
hard.
all good. Any other thoughts?
I think if there's something that keeps coming up in your life, you should just do it. Like, I think that's a good rule of thumb for regret. Like, if you keep thinking about, like, oh, I should really get that thing so I could start doing this activity, or I really want to go to this place, and it's a thought that just keeps coming up, just get it out of the way and do it.
Mm,
That way you don't have to worry about it and you don't regret it. I mean, no matter what it takes, just do it. There's always a way to do it. Like people always say too, like traveling, like I can't afford it. It's like you can stay in a hostel and stuff. There's plenty of things you can do to decrease the cost significantly. You
hmm
just have to plan, and I think do it. Yeah.
That great advice. Yeah, that's great advice. Just do it. So, yeah. Anyways, there you have it. How not to regret your life or feel like you wasted your life at the very end of it, or even right now. So, if you enjoyed this episode, like it, share it with friends, give us a good review. This is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Andy.